I moved to live in the countryside of Utah with my parents when I was 18. I'd grown up in the city and was accustomed to all the city noises, so the first few seasons did take a while to adjust to all the new sounds. Our house was one of a few on the road, and beyond that were miles of countryside fields. I became good friends with the boy next door. He was my age. We would often visit each other, watching late night movies and playing games. Due to my relationship being tarnished with my parents, I used to spend a lot of time around my friend's house, particularly late at night, so I wouldn't hear my dad moan when he returned from work. Every so often, we would hear this loud hissing, breathing noise from outside. I come from a city background, so this immediately put me on edge when I first heard, but my friend seemed unfazed. When we looked outside, we could never see anything, and the noise seemed to stop when we checked. This went on for months. We were in the basement, with no floodlights to illuminate the yard, and it would always occur under the cover of darkness. My friend heard this noise before, but never knew what was causing it. One weekend, I was staying around my friends. His parents were away, and we decided to go for a drive to pick up some late night snacks. Their driveway was not lit, so it was pitch black, but I got a creepy feeling I was being watched when we left the house. A quick scan of my surroundings with a flashlight didn't show anything unusual. My friend and I got into the car and started to reverse backwards to the left with the beams on high. As he pulled back, the car headlights swept across his yard and brought something completely unexpected into view. I first thought it was a large dog or a disfigured scarecrow, but I realised I was looking at something totally alien-like. That's the only way I can describe it. It was tall, bigger than a Great Dane, but its legs were bent backwards, and it was very slim. Its face was very long, snout-like. It was about 20 yards away from us. I knew my friend saw this too, as he stopped reversing as the car headlights brought this into view. In this moment, I felt as if time had stood still. I wanted to turn to my friend, but I was fixated on this creature. The thing then shot off, in a sprint, and leaped over a 6-foot fence. We both turned to each other, pale, shaken. My friend's flight response kicked in, and he sped off the drive, wheels skidding, narrowly missing the mailbox. This left us both shaken. We found a gas station to pull into, after driving for around 35 minutes. We picked up some food and ate in the car to try and calm our nerves. We were both terrified about the prospect of going back to the house. There was no one home, and all the guns were in the basement of the house. We finally got the courage to drive back. We drove up and down the road a few times before turning into the yard and making a run for the house. We spent the night in the basement, guns ready, but never heard anything. This still haunts me and my friend to this day. My friend moved away 6 months ago, so I really had no one I could talk to. After he moved, I would sometimes wake in the night and hear that odd hissing, breathing noise. I managed to convince my parents to install floodlights around the property, under the pretense that I was concerned about someone breaking into the house, but I never mentioned this to them. I still hear that same hissing, breathing noise on occasion, but since the floodlights went up, its frequency has reduced. I guess it doesn't like bright lights. I moved into a house out in the country with my wife Kate. We had been looking for a place to live for a while since before COVID struck, so we were really excited when we saw this house. There was loads of space. It had a workshop, a garage, a basement with a bunker, and a very large yard, perfect for our 2 dogs. We moved in a few months after. My wife worked from home, but had to travel to the office a few times a month for client meetings. Because she had to wake early, usually 4 AM, I would typically sleep in the basement on those days. The basement had a laundry area and kitchen, some box rooms, which is where I typically slept. I am a light sleeper. There were odd things happening in the basement. Things would move about, and we would find them later on in odd places. I initially dismissed it. We were both very busy, and I passed this off. But it became apparent one morning when Kate couldn't find her keys. We always keep our keys on a key hook on the ground floor. We searched all over the house. We later found them in the basement on top of a table, in a place we would easily have seen them before. I was certain that something wasn't right, but I went back to bed. The next strange thing to happen was a few weeks later. It was late in the evening. I was sleeping in the basement, and I had let the dogs out before locking up for the night. After I let the dogs out, I heard a loud, curdling scream of a woman coming from outside. I couldn't tell exactly which direction it came from, but both my dogs heard it. They stopped and fixated their gaze on a particular part of the yard. I had 8-foot wire fences around the perimeter, so I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it in the direction and around the yard. My flashlight was military grade. It could illuminate anything up to 800 yards, but I saw nothing. The landscape around the yard, an area beyond my boundary, was flat, so if it was a person on foot, they wouldn't be able to get very far. The dogs were startled by this, and spent most of the night clinging by my side. I told Kate about it the next day, but she thought I might have heard a coyote cry or some animal being hunted. It had been a few weeks and nothing strange had happened recently. Our house was really starting to feel like a home. One evening, I was down in the basement, in my bedroom watching TV, when I heard footsteps and movement outside my door. I assumed that it was Kate. I called out to her, but heard nothing, and the movement stopped. I got up after a while to find the fridge door was wide open. I mentioned it to Kate on the next day, but she was adamant that she had not been down there. I felt uneasy. I started to think maybe it was one of the dogs, but I was sure they were with me. A few weeks passed, and one night I heard the same noise again, footsteps and movement outside my bedroom door. Our basement area was open at that point, as we were doing some renovations, so I could see the basement floor almost end to end. I can still hear the footsteps moving about. I can follow them around the floor, moving from one side of the room to the other, but I could see nothing. This terrified me. I closed the door, shut off the TV, and listened. I could still hear the footsteps, but they stopped after a while. I sat on the bed, trying to process what I had just experienced. I thought to myself I needed to get out of here, but the stairs were at the other side of the house. Then the footsteps started again. They seemed to get heavier and faster. Then as they got close, they stopped right outside my door. There was a few seconds of silence before I heard 3 distinct knocks on my bedroom door, as if someone was trying to get in. I could see the door handle rattling, moving down. I dived to the door and pressed up on the handle to stop the door from opening. I felt some resistance pushing down against the handle, and I used all of my strength to stop that door from opening. I can't remember how long I was there holding the handle. My hands were tired and red. After a few minutes, I managed to gather the courage to open the door. There was nothing there. Both dogs were cowering under my bed. I slept in our RV for the rest of the night. I moved into the bedroom upstairs after this incident. It's been 4 months, and I've not slept in the basement since that day. I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment for about 12 months, and I was coming to the end of my lease. During this time, I encountered strange things. My dog randomly barking at nothing, fire alarms going off in the middle of the night, doors closing by themselves, and footsteps. I shared my apartment with a flatmate who loved a good prank, so I didn't think too much of this. I secured a new lease 2 weeks before my existing lease ran out. My flatmate already moved out a few days before, so I had time to move the rest of my stuff out my room and do some last minute cleaning. My new apartment was in a different town, as I changed jobs, so I would drop by the old place in the evenings. The apartment we moved out of was on the 2nd floor. We had people above and below us. You could sometimes hear a fair bit of movement, but that was expected. One evening, I was staying at my new apartment unpacking my stuff. It was late, around 11:30 p.m, when I got a call from the police. They explained there had been a noise complaint coming from my old apartment. Apparently, one of the neighbours could hear a lot of banging and scratching coming from the apartment. I told the police officer the apartment was empty, but he didn't believe me. He told me there was a light on and he could see movement inside. I was adamant that I turned off all the lights before I left. The landlord was there too and gave the police access, but when they searched, they found it empty. No charges were filed, as the noise was not present. The police left and the landlord locked up. The apartment was furnished. I had packed most of my stuff, so there was just cleaning left. Dog hair gets everywhere, and I really needed my security deposit back. I would hear the odd noise when I went in. Sometimes it sounded like there was someone in the apartment. Footsteps, sound of objects sliding. It creeped me out, so I would wear earpods and listen to music. It didn't help that it was winter, so it got dark after 5 p.m. when I finished work. I had finished cleaning for the day. As I went to leave my bedroom and enter the kitchen lounge area in the apartment, I saw this black smoke in the kitchen. It took a moment for me to process what I was seeing. It was like a big mass of darkness, hovering there, drifting slowly. It had the same colour and texture as smoke, but it did not rise. it just floated. I was tired. Maybe it was what my brain wanted me to see. I rubbed my eyes, and when I opened them again, it was gone. I regret not taking a photo of it now, but it surprised and puzzled me. I finished cleaning up and left soon after. My flatmate was already out of town, but he did admit that strange stuff was going on, and he thought it was partly me, pranking him over the months we lived there.